then I rang my wife and I said, hey, I'm going to take the mountain, and she cracked laughing. She said, what are you talking about?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Odd Tandem. Our guest today is one of my favorite people from my racing days. He won a stage in each three of the Grand Tours, but unfortunately had a career-ending event in 2020 where he lost his eyesight and had to retire. But Jensie, what a special treat to have Marcel Wüst on the podcast today.
Absolutely it is. And what I like about him is that, just like me, he never raced for a German team. He was always in a team from a different country, just like me. And he speaks about 25 languages with each local accent possible. He is just all around a great person to talk to. And yes, he was a hell of a bike rider.
He won a stage in each three of the Grand Tours and unfortunately had a bad fall in 2000. It compromised his eyesight and he was forced to retire. And now he runs Casa Ciclista down in Mallorca, where you can stay with him and he can cook for you and teach you all about cycling. Riding next to this guy, he was an Adonis. His legs were massive. He was ripped. He had veins popping out of everywhere. And normally he would win the sprint at the end of the race. So sit back and relax and listen to our great interview, conversation, catch up, if you will, with our old friend Marcel Wüst. All right, Marcel Wüst, welcome to the Odd Tandem.
Yeah, well, great to be here. I mean, we've been spending so many hours, together in the saddle, in the bloody pain train, in these races. And now I see you guys, and you see, riders of our generation, we don't age. We just look all perfectly young, like 30 years ago.
Oh, man, I'm just so excited to have you on as a guest today because, again, back when I turned pro in 1995, at least in the European peloton, no one spoke English. Very, very few guys spoke English. And you were one of the guys that was so nice to me and just I can't say enough good things about you. So as soon as Jen said that you were going to be our guest, it just put a smile on my face because, it was lonely back then in the English-speaking peloton. But my question back then, which I want to ask again, is when you came up and started speaking to little old me, being all nice and stuff in 1995, I didn't know where you were from, because you seem to speak English, at least back then, with very much an Australian accent. Where did that come from?
Well, I can speak like an Aussie, but I reckon that's because I spent so much time of my life in Australia, I should say. So I've been racing there for many winters, then stayed over in training, came back, made friends. I spent basically 3 years of my life altogether in Australia. And that was it. I spoke like the guys I used to hang out with, and they were basically Aussies, like Jensie, because Jensie knows Aussies, they are pretty good fun as well. And actually the reason why I did speak to you, probably this is a story which has never been told on a podcast. I remember when I was a neo-pro, I was like in 89, little Marcel Wüst came and won the very first race of the season, La Ronde des Pyrénées. And then I did Étoile de Bessèges. And I was riding wrong then. And there comes a personality named Steve Bauer, like, one of the really big pros. And he just, sort of rode next to me and sort of looked at me and said, hey, are you Marcel? And I said, yeah. Hey, I've seen you won the first race here in the season. Well, it won't get easier. But, congratulations and have a good time and welcome to the bunch. And I just looked at him and said, I had these guys on a poster, like in my boy's bedroom, like 8 or 7 years ago when he started to get big. And now he speaks to me. And I actually did later in my career when I was starting to be an achiever, to win big races, to sort of be a very, let's say, successful sprinter. I usually did it at least 3 or 4 or 5 times a year in the beginning of the season. I just went to the starting list where you had the UCI codes of the neo pros. And then I just, number 75, Jorge Hernandez. And then I looked, in the Spanish race, went next to Jorge and say, hey, you are Jorge, right? And he looked and said, yeah. I said, I'm Marcel. Welcome to the bunch and have a good career. And, because that little thing of Steve Bauer gave me so much. And, well, apparently, I spoke to you, Bobby, probably for the same reason, because I haven't seen you before in the European bunch.
Awesome.
So what did actually inspire you to start cycling at all? I mean, who else's poster did you had on the wall that were your heroes of your childhood or your youth, and where and how did you got connected with cycling?
Well, the first time my connection with cycling was I was probably 5. We were in southern France on holiday, and we went to watch the Tour. We were camping, my parents and me. And I can't remember. It was a stage between Gap and Briançon. Like we were on the side of the road there. It was the top of the mountain finish. It was 1973. And, we stood there and it was hot. It was like in the Tour in the Alps, it's hot. And we stood there and it was waiting and you wait and you're sort of 5 and it's boring. And then came a few Michelin people, like, the big guys on the motorbikes. Then came a few guys. There came one guy. That was Luis Ocaña in yellow. 5 minutes later, another guy. Then a little group, then a few more guys, and then all the cars, and everybody went home. And it was like 5 hours and pretty boring. But I've seen the Tour. I was really proud then. And fast forward for I'd say 5 years. We've just moved to another part of Cologne, and in front of our house there was actually a race, and I went and watched it. And it was like a criterium, like on a hot dog circuit, and there was kids my age racing. No, probably I was 10, maybe they were 9, 10, 11, 12. There was all the different levels. And because it was a hot dog course, you could see one side and then go to the other and watch. And in the last lap, on the opposite stretch, there was a crash. There was like a big crash. There was like probably 20 kids involved. The pelotons, they were huge. There were like 100 riders on the start line in the 10 to 12-year-olds. And I saw one guy. He got up from, after the crash, and he ripped his bike out of the pile of the other bikes and jumps on the bike and went on and then turned around, and I went on the other side, and he was like sprinting, his knee was bleeding, and he wasn't even bloody crying. And I said, oh my God, this guy is tough. And it's sort of, I got hooked. I said, wow, that's a good sport. And that's like, oh, good, tough little boys. And the next week, there was 200 meters to the other side. That's how many races we used to have in Cologne then. There was another bike race. My dad ran into a old friend, and he said, "Hey, Rolf, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Yeah, my son Marcus, he's racing." And then he came. He was my age. I looked at the bike, some Italian something with Campagnolo, which I didn't know what it was then. And I got invited to. If you wanna go on a ride, just take his bike and ride. And I rode this sort of then 7.8 kilo bike, and it was all Italian and working and shiny. And I watched the race, and after this I said, I want to start cycling. And the rest is history. Well, it's along his story, like my story, but it's really history. So many things got me towards the pros. I mean, like you guys. I mean, if you don't have the dedication, you don't have the passion, you don't want to really do it, well, you make it to a certain level. But then, the last 5%, that's the hardest. And it's happy to see your faces, guys, because I see your inner smiles now because, fuck, he's right. And I was, when I was a little kid, I was like this. I mean, that's where we made it. And it's just a great story.
Oh, man. So many memories. But, okay, so going from that moment, you're a German kid, and all of a sudden you sign for one of the biggest French teams, RMO, and you stagiaire for them, and then you turn pro, you win your first race, like you said. But why RMO as a German rider? Was there some fascination? I mean, I loved Charlie Motet back in the day. You mentioned Steve Bauer, Greg LeMond, absolutely top of the list. But Charlie Motet, I was always like, oh man, that guy's kind of cool, even though he's French, So yeah, how did you jump on RMO and stay there for 5 years?
Well, it was I had the choice actually. Well, first of all, my family and I, with my parents, we always went to France on a holiday, so we just loved it. Then in my school, I was bilingual. So we had the whole one part of the school was all teach in French, taught in French, because I was thinking if I don't make it, maybe I go and study in France, somewhere. I didn't know because I really wanted to turn pro. But I spoke pretty good French, and I had the opportunity to join this team because in '89, we had the first ever for years German team Stuttgart, and they wanted me as well. But I just said, no, I want to go to France because there was a team, all neo-pros. This all German neo-pros, new team. There was, I think, Henny Kuiper was riding for them. That was it. And I had the opportunity because I won many races in France at the Loire-Cher, I did the Grand Prix Breton, like all these important races for the Frenchies. And a French guy who lived in Germany, he was kind of managing. He had really a lot of contacts. And he just said, well, I'll try to find je vais te trouver une maison. I'll find a house for you. So that was, what they used to say for a team at the times. And it was Aramon. And I chose it because, when I drove with Maurice, was his name, Maurice Portier, I drove with him to Paris to actually sign my contract on the last day of the tour. And, we came on the Hotel La Concorde Lafayette the Monday after the tour. And I was with him, and I was like, oh, no, we go and see Bernard Vallée, and you sign your contract. And so we went actually in the elevator, and then another guy just walked in. And this guy was Perico Delgado. He just won the tour the day before. And he said, hola, buenos dias. And I was like, hola. I didn't speak much Spanish then. And then he got off, and we got off, and he said to me, that was Delgado. Yeah, but they're all here. And for me, that was just the world that was I've been dreaming of since I was a little boy, then a junior rider, then even in the amateur ranks, you do a few open races, but not with the big guys. Well, and then I went and signed my contract, and I stayed there because they wanted me to stay as well. As you said, winning the first race was great. After this, I won another race in the Circuit de la Sarthe in April, then in May at Tour de l'Oise. And after this, they came up with another 2-year contract. So I had my first 2 years safe, plus another 2 years after it. And I said, okay, if I sign this for with a negotiable salary, which was still not much, I just say, hey, you're 4 years pro, and in these 4 years, you have all the opportunities to actually develop yourself, to find out how good you are in what and what you need to do to improve. So I was happy, but as I said, my first contract was 12,000 French francs a month. So that's now in euro, it's like, I don't know, 2,500 maybe. And that was before tax a month.
Yep. I had the same contract. I had the same contract my first year. Absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about in French francs. Yep.
But Jensie, wouldn't you have done it for free as well, at least for 1 year to have the chance? I would have.
Oh, hell yeah. Of course. I would even go further. You know what?
You pay for it.
Here's 1,000 euros in cash. Just take it and give me the contract. Yeah, I believe so, because I was also determined. I was just desperate to get in. I believed in myself, to go. I know I can be better than I am now. I deserve a chance. I deserve a shot at it. And of course, I would have done it for free, at least for a year. Of course.
Yes. Same mentality. Nowhere near to be found nowadays. Times have changed.
Just now you mentioned the word nowadays. Now these kids are 19 years old and riding the Tour de France. Pogacar won 2 Tour de France's before he turned 22 years old. How long did it take you to actually get into your first Tour de France and to actually win your first stage? Or how long did it take you so that you could tell about yourself, yep, I am a solid professional bike rider?
Well, that was my first year pro I was 89. My first tour was in 92, but that was a funny story. I did the Tour de France without getting to France because the tour started in San Sebastian, and on the downhill of the Jaiskibel, I crashed and broke my right collarbone, so tour over on day one. That was the first tour. After this, I was with teams like I signed for Histo Novelmite, Peter Post's last team. They had a sprinter, Willie Nellison. He was set for the tour, so I wasn't doing the tour. After this, I signed for Le Groupement, this infamous French team, which folded after like 6 months. Then I rode for a small Spanish team. So and then I rode for Festina, who had a totally different strategy to go to the Tour. Not sprinter, only mountains for the GC. So that was 97, 98. In 99, I actually was set for the Tour. 4 weeks before the Tour, I crashed again in a fucking Criterium, broke my other collarbone, and I wasn't going. So it took me until 2000 to ride my first Tour de France. And, to ride it in a way, I would say, where I was happy to ride it, where I was prepared to ride it. And I was flying the first week, as you know. Sorry, another day. Sorry, Jens, for the day in Vitré. But I really appreciated that the next day after I win the stage, when we chased you and Eric Decker down about 300 meters to go, you came to me and said, hey, you know what, Marcel? Congrats. I'm happy that you won because I think Decker would have beat me anyways. And I'd rather have you the stage win than him. And I thought that was cool. That's you, Jensie. And that's why I love you, man.
And didn't you win that stage in a mountains jersey?
Yes.
Yep. And just for our listeners and viewers, that day, Eric Decker and me, we were in a breakaway. We got caught, I think, even maybe with 200 meters to go. I was still 18th in a massive Tour de France bunch sprint because I was caught so late that I still finished in the top 20 on the stage. And bloody Team Telecom, they were chasing all day for Eric Zabel. And they caught me, and Marcel said, yep, thanks for bringing me here. Thanks for giving me the chance. And he took the stage, but that was so awesome. It was a really good day we had together there, right?
Yeah, so we had many great days. But this was, you know what it feels like when you win your very first stage at the Tour. Or the first day on the podium. I mean, when I did the 950 meter sprint in the prologue to actually get the mountains jersey on day one, knowing day 2 is flat, day 3 is flat, day 4 is a team time trial. So I knew I'm gonna be in the mountains jersey for 4 days, just with an effort of 1 minute 20. So I prepared it, I delivered, and then I enjoyed. I think that's that's what you deserve as well in cycling, because hey, our sport is so hard. If you don't have the passion, the dedication, you can't do it for the money, no matter how much money. But if you don't love it, you just quit.
I'm not going to let you glance over that. You got to tell me. You just said that you concentrated in the prologue for the climber's jersey. Tell us the details. I got to know this because very very often you see that there's KOM points available, but most people are going for the stage victory. What did you do exactly? How did you break it down and analyze it that you said, hey, I'm a sprinter, but I'm going to be spending 4 days in the mountains jersey if I do this right?
Well, it was funny when you get to the Tour, you just get your road book and then you see and then you look. And well, it was not a prologue. Usually a prologue is, 5, 6, 7, maximum 8K. There was a 15K time trial. So knowing as a sprinter to the specialists, I'll lose in 15K, you lose basically a minute or 50 seconds. So even with the time bonuses, yellow was impossible. On a short prologue 5K, you lose probably maybe 15 seconds, and the next day you win, and you get 20 seconds bonus, and you have the yellow. That was out of order. So, and then I saw there was a 950 meter long climb. And when we actually went to the circuit to do it, I did it once, like the 15K circuit. We said, we ride like 4 or 5 times on it over the time trial bikes. And I told the guy, say, look, I'm just going to stay here. And then I rode up and down this mountain about 20, 30, 40 times, just like up, down. I know where the road surface was good. I know where the potholes were. I knew exactly how long it was. I went to the hotel then, told my team director and the mechanic, I said, look, guys, I'm going to start with a normal bike, not with a TT bike, because it was after 2.5K. And I'm going to sprint and go for the mountain jersey. And I said, all right. Then I told my roommate, Giuseppe Bellocchi, I told him, I said, hey, Giuseppe, I'm going to have the mountain jersey on the after the time trial, if everything was well. He said, yeah, I think you can make it. So, and then I rang my wife and I said, hey, I'm going to take the mountain jersey. And she cracked laughing. She said, what are you talking about? And then I explained and said, all right. So, and then I went there, as a sprinter, usually time trial days are sort of half rest days where you sort of get in the time cut, but don't lose too much energy. But there was a tour, you're on the podium, breathing. I come with my normal bike to the start. And there's Emmanuel Magnan, like a good sprinter as well. And he was starting right in front of me. And he said, what is with your bike? And I said, look, my time trial bike just broke yesterday. And I didn't want the guys to drive all the way down to Spain and then come back. And it's like, I'm taking this, and for the second time trial, we'll be closer. And I said, okay, because he was one of the guys trying it as well without telling. Then went off the ramp and went 2.5K. You had the cotton buds with a menthol oil in the nose, and I was
so French.
Yeah. Then took a bottle, squeezed the bottle just before the left corner, throw the bottle away, and for me it was like the sprint, and I went around the corner and just bam, hammered all on, and then after when you go full on, how it feels like after 20 seconds, after 30, after 40. Well, it was 1 minute 19. So I just came up there. My heart rate was over 200 for the first time, I'd say, in years. I mean, I was 30 plus then. And my team director was actually telling me that he said, oh, yeah, we saw you. You just go like this and throw the bottle and went around the corner. And then we came around the corner and you were not there. And he said, well, second gear, third gear, and you were still not there. And I just used the whole run. And on the top, I threw the bike and I saw a gasp for air. And I was totally exhausted. And then, I started rolling. So I couldn't do one more pedal stroke. And all of a sudden, behind me, the car was beep, 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 beep. I said, fuck, what's going on? Oh, fuck, it's still you still have to do like 12K. Then Alejandro came with a TT bike with a fresh bottle on it. And he just pushed me. I changed it because it was really long flats and, just like the typical French roads like this. So I just got on the bike and started rolling. And all of a sudden I said, well, now I'm going all right. Then I heard came the disc wheel of the guy, which started in the back, like 1 minute behind me. He just came flying past. I said, oh my God. But at the end, I was quicker than Panzani in this time trial. And then I sat in the bus. You sit in the bus usually after a time trial, you just have nothing to do. And it was like with a masseur on the finish line, hey, what's the time? No, still best time. And it's like, oh, fuck. And then I got all nervous. You eat almost nothing before the prologue or the time trial, drink 5 coffees to sort of, and I was ding. I was like a ping pong ball in the bus. And they say, hey, Marcel, settle down. I said, I don't know. Somebody knocks. There's a guy with a green jacket from ISO. And he said, il est là, Wüst, c'est pour le maillot de la montagne. And I go like, yes, man, 4 days on the podium.
And, man, I don't remember this, so I had to just look it up on the internet. So, yes, you took the King of the Mountain jersey in front of Frankie Andreu. So Frankie Andreu did the exact same thing that you did because you wound up finishing 142nd place at 2 minutes and 18 seconds behind. And Frankie, who did the same thing, finished 153rd at 2:26. Jensie, both you and I were in this race, and this is probably why I don't remember it, is because 2000 was my worst Tour de France I ever did. I was absolutely overtrained, a mental milkshake, the whole 9 yards. So going full gas, I got 55th place, 117 down. So I only beat you by a minute after you did that whole scenario. Jensie, oh gosh, I got to go way up here. Jensie had a good one, 13th place at only 44 seconds. And it was won by our friend David Miller in front of Armstrong, Jalabert, and Ulrich. Holy cow. Thank you for that story because I totally just spaced that whole scenario.
And the good thing is, when I actually went to the presentation, there was David Miller yellow, David Miller green, David Miller white, and then with a polka dot jersey, I walked out. And our German Eurosport commentator was Klaus Angermann at the time with Tony Rominger. And it was like I came out there and Tony just said with his Swiss accent, oh, this is Marcel in the mountain jersey. This must be an error. And, nobody knew what's happening. I never heard it. I got told by the people that he said it, and I just cracked laughing. So when we run into each other sometimes in Mallorca, we just, we always talk about this. That was a funny story.
Hey, Marcel, you had such a long career. How did it happen that, just like me, you never rode for a German team?
Well, there was only Telekom, and they sucked. I mean, as a
So I'm not the only guy on this podcast that rode for Telecom, and and I'm not German.
Look at that. Here we are, two Germans who never went to Team Telecom. At the American from across the ocean, he actually ended up at Team Telecom, and he would
God
probably
bless you guys for not going there. God bless you guys for not going there.
I know all the Belgian the flickers. It's a mentality. I rode 3 years for Peter Post. With his Novemai. That was with Walter Plankard and all the good riders. Mike Sergeant was there, and Guy Nilles and Willy Nilles, Nico Verhoeven. But it's a different kind of mentality. It has been. In Peter Post's team, you felt like you're on the bottom of the food chain. You're even below the mechanics. I said, hey, look, I need. What do you mean your bike is too short? You say, yeah, well, look, from here to there, it's like a centimeter shorter. Yeah, but we can't change your stem right now. I said, okay, well, they can't. Maybe tomorrow, you ask, you just got put in that was crap. That was survival. That was pure survival for 2 years. Lucky I made it out of it, but then you got to the groupment. I happy back in France, and then team falls. But at least they had red wine on the table every night. That was good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, okay. We all rode for French teams. Jens, you and I started riding for French teams for me, 1997. I think you the same, right?
Marcel, 1 year later,
98?
98.
Okay, so you were close to 10 years ahead of us going on to French teams. When we got to French teams, it was like, I know Jens was happy, but I was just like, whoa, there's some issues here. What was it like back in those days being on French teams? I mean, you got to have some crazy stories, not just, hey, I can't change your stem, right?
No, well, that was the Belgians, like the guys in Belgium, because I was the German and they didn't really like me. Because actually it was part of Charlie Motet, who I raced 4 years with in RMO, who went then to Eastern Novemai, and we sort of, yeah, well, Marcel, and I want to sort of bring him with me, but he won't be. I mean, I won a couple of races for them, so that's cool. But French team, it was. You felt like on a family holiday. I mean, from the 1st or 2nd of January until the 9th of January in my first year, we had a training camp in Font-Romeu, skiing, like downhill skiing and a little bit of cross country. The team headquarters was in Grenoble. They were all good skiers: Jean-Claude Colotti, Dante Redza. There was Mauro Ribeiro, the Brazilian guy, and it was like family. Everybody looked after everyone. The women were like the wives were always there, and you were racing, and they cared for you. But it was way more professional still than in my last year as an amateur, because there we went to a Giro della Valle d'Aosta, like in the Aosta Valley, like a really hard race with like 4,000 meters of climbing every day. And we didn't even have a masseur. So our team director, he washed he drove the car. Then he told us, come on, guys, go to the room, have a shower, come back down. Then you wash your bikes. And then if you feel like it, you can give yourself a rub in between each other's. So, and there was 1 year before turning, next year I was pro, and I was like, oh, wow. But I think in the conditions, well, you guys know the conditions I know from, the late 80s in the French team. 95% of the riders now, they could not even survive a week, because it was left to yourself. And when I was rooming with Christian Jourdan, who was a domestic for Bernard Hinault, my great idol when I was young, he said, well, look, when I was the neo-pro, and I used to clean Bernard's shoes. And I said, what? Oh, really? Yeah, but I don't want you to clean my shoes. I'm over this. But if you're pro 2 years earlier, you clean my shoes, because I'm the oldest and you're the youngest. And it was like sort of a thing, which has been, I don't know, tradition or whatever. But there's some good changes have been made as well to the cycling world. But I think, French teams, they didn't give too much about. We had a nutritionist, but if you see how the guys eat and drink today and fuel up in races, we were not even amateurs. We were fucking juniors.
That's true. When I started, red wine on table was just standard. red wine on the table. And when you would have a transfer after the race to the airport or to the hotel, you would have a white baguette that size, just filled up with cheese and ham and butter. It was delicious, but it was just fucking not good for you, I guess, compared to today. But it made you happy, But yeah.
That's it. A happy rider is a good rider.
Correct.
Take everything bad away from him. So he'll perform like physically, probably, let's say 5% better, which is a lot. But if mentally he crushes 15, he's at -10. And only a happy rider can be a good rider, because we still know what the difference between a happy rider and an unhappy rider. But I think now, from, let's say, juveniles, maybe juniors, they're all so focused, and they know they can right away, they can make quite a good salary as well. And they're focused and they don't miss anything, because something, if you never had a private jet, you're not going to miss it. Well, if you, I never plan on getting one, even if I win the lottery. But that's the thing. We knew how good the life could be with the hard parties, even in the in the juniors, in the winter, and then sometimes in the season and in the amateurs as well. And when we won, man, we've been sneaking out the fire steps in the hotels in the Vuelta Murcia on the Saturday, because Sunday was just a freaking time trial, and then we came back totally smashed at 4:30 in the morning. Didn't matter. 15K time trial, off you go home, have a half a week recovery, then go to the next race, you're fine. But that was the thing we needed for our heads. And, maybe they're differently programmed right now and they don't need it anymore. That was great.
Oh, man. This is funny, because normally we always have a quick fire thing to kind of break the ice. But we didn't need to break the ice. But we have our quick fire questions anyway. So we got 4 questions, short answers. Number 1, what is the hardest mountain, as a sprinter, what is the hardest mountain you ever climbed?
The Angliru, when we started doing it in 99 for the very first time. It was wet, it was miserable, it was cold, and it's the fucking hardest thing you can imagine.
Okay. If you would have become a lead out man, who would you have wanted to lead out?
Cipollini.
Either Cipollini.
Yes, because Chippo, he was, probably, there's a good story. I'll tell this after the rapid fire thing. Keep going.
Okay. Thank you for respecting the short answers, questions, short answers. Okay, so you won a lot during your career, but I was wondering, what was the coolest or most unique trophy or prize you won during your career?
I could say the plastic thing I won at Super Week in Manitou Walk, but that's not true. The Tour de France trophy, it was on the podium like a plastic bottle, like a Coke bottle in gold and plastic, like that big. And behind the podium, they take it off you and give you the same thing, half the size. It was that big. And I took it home because it was from the tour. One day it crashed from the desk. It broke. I threw it in the bin. So that's it. I mean,
oh my gosh, that is so true. You think you have that cool ass trophy, and then it's just like a little tiny replica. Okay, this may be a trick question, but what was your max power output when you were sprinting at your best back in the day?
I never measured it. I just went.
We knew it. We thought maybe he would have had an SIM back in the days, but maybe
bullshit, not me. Not me. I even as a pro, I never had one. I mean, even this, never had it. Never had it. My highest heart rate was 212 when I was a junior in the winter training with my club. I know that, like recording like this, but I don't know. But anyways,
that's why we asked. We had a feeling.
Yeah. I'd say, probably about something similar to what the guys do now, because, we trained hard. I mean, I was one of the few guys back then. I went to the gym all year long. I did weight sessions, came back from a race, had 2 days recovery. Then I did 3 days where I did weights in the morning and then easy rides. And then I started really training again. So there was just as an injury, to prevent me from injury. But basically, Yeah, probably the same. I don't know, but probably then the bikes would have broken. I mean, I have my Specialized. I'm still. I mean, I will ever be the first man who won a Tour de France stage on a Specialized bike. So I have a Specialized down in my living room on the wall, and sometimes I take it down, like in the summer, and I ride around the block. Geez, that thing is so soft. I don't know how we did like 100 km per hour down the hills and around the corners on the 23 millimeters tubeless. I don't know, but we did it.
Hey, if you could ever write a letter to yourself in that first training camp as a pro, what would you tell yourself 20, 30 years ago? What would you tell yourself?
I read with all the knowledge I have now.
Yep, of course, yep.
Well, that's great. I say, hey, Marcel, look, don't do le test de forme, which I haven't done. I mean, you guys probably know that within the French team, when they put the Mercuro Chrome, like the red stuff for wound disinfection on your leg, they usually do it with neopros. They haven't done it with me. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have won the very first race, because then you're all like depressed and sad, and everybody in the bunch sees that you're a neopro because you have red legs. But no, I would write myself, hey, don't sign for Histonovemai, don't sign for Le Groupement, but for all the rest. Yeah, I've been and don't go too fast in the corner where you would crash. I mean, I have done basically everything the way I felt I had to do it, because it just comes. I'm not a great thinker. I'm just I work on intuition. I just say, okay, let's go. We do this, and just to not change too much. And otherwise, I haven't done any mistakes in my career. Yeah, probably, Marcel, be smart and strong enough to actually invent the lead-out train like Cipollini did. Because that makes winning races so easy. It did make it so easy for him at the time. And in a short story, I can tell you why I found it out. In the Vuelta Catalunya one year, I was twice second in the flat stages behind Chipo, but only by that much. And yet all this, I was so strong. But for the fight of his wheel, you lose so much energy that you can't beat him. Then we had 3 mountain stages, so Chipo went home. So on the last day, we were there with Maximino Perez, my Spanish team director, small team. I said, hey, Maximino, do we have sort of a budget for, like investing in? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, look, maybe if you have something, go and ask Eros Poli how much he wants if he rides in a sprint for me today. It's only 1K or 800 meters he has to do. Maybe you give him some money. And he said, oh, good idea. And then on the start line, we were rolling in the neutral zone. And all of a sudden, Eros, 194, he came and said, hey, Marcello, va bene? I said, yeah, how are you? He said, oh, oggi buona rota. Buona rota, good wheel. And he pointed to his back wheel. And then nobody knew except for me. And then we were going in a sprint somewhere near Barcelona. And all of a sudden, I just heard somebody say, Marcel, die. And then he came past, and there's one in the wheel at 1,100 to go. And he went gas. And it was like, I was like, hey, wow, this is like behind a truck. And he just went and went and went. And when he said, looked behind me and saw, well, not much. And then I went, then I let the little hole you leave at the sprinter. And then I went boom at 300, and I won by 15 meters. And I just said, fuck, no wonder why Chipo is winning so many races. He has to do nothing. I mean, he has to go over there. Great for me. He's so charismatic and so controversial. I just loved him. We just needed at this time. We just needed so much more people like Chipo. But in Germany they said, yeah, but he never goes to Paris. He's not a great rider. I said, hey, look, he won 43 stages in the Giro, and he had to. So I was, and he was such a fair sportsman. When I won the stage in the Giro, I remember we always met. We were 3 Germans in the Giro: Uwe Peschel, Thorsten Schmidt, and me. We always met at the Saiko tent because they had best coffee and best girls. So we just meet in the morning. So I just took the Gazzetta and looked what they write about my stage win. I was the first one. All of a sudden I had a knock on the front, like clock on my Gazzetta. So I took it down, and there was Chipo standing there looking, hey, Marcello, grande, complimenti per la volata. So he could have walked past, but he knocked and said, "Hey, well done, good job." And this is sportsmanship. He was like, I mean, they said, "Yeah, Hollywood and this," but well, I would have been a happy lead-out man for Chippo because, he was just a cool guy. Many people think differently of him, but no, that was admiration.
I must say I have a little bit a similar story. We were at the tour and was just in one of these mad days, attacks left, right, center. And then finally, Chipo had enough. He went to the front, hey, piano. And my little teammate, Sebastian, attacks. And Chipo was yelling after him and going after him. I said, Chipo, you're a campione. He cannot win if he is in a peloton with you. But we are also here to win. It is our job. We need to do our job. And our job is to be in the finish line before you. Otherwise, you beat us. And he looked at me and goes, Bane. And he understood. And ever since then...
He didn't understand shit.
And then ever since he came, hey, ciao Jens. So, yeah, but I mean, I also have seen the other side of him. He was probably in more fist fights than any other rider of his time, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's funny.
Well,
days.
The Tour Down Under started today, actually yesterday, because they're basically 3/4 the day ahead of us. It's their 25th anniversary. The first one was in 1999 and won by Stuart O'Grady, who is now the race director of the race. So today's stage won by Sam Welsford from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. He won it in a sprint. Can you tell us, because I know you pay attention to the sport, what is the difference between sprinting in this day and age compared to sprinting in your day and age, besides what you mentioned about the lead-out train? Was there a difference in speed, tactics, cojones? What was it that allowed you to be so successful back then?
I think, different in everything. And the different in speed, I guess it's what's undeniable. But, I mean, if they would ride the bikes we had 25 years ago with aluminium, and I think the speed has increased for the material and probably the overall fitness of the riders. But I'd say this doesn't make so much of a difference. As you said, the tactics, there is actually no sprinter who hasn't got at least 2 or 3 helpers. I remember in the Tour, the stage when I won, Jensie, and we caught you, I usually have Jaime Hernandez and Christophe Moreau. Christophe Moreau was 4th in that Tour, so he was a GC rider. They were sort of with me until 5, maybe 4 Ks to go sometimes. And that was it. After this, I was all by myself. So I never had a lead-out train. Actually, after the Tour, I said we signed Sven Teutenberg, Stefan Radochler, and we had André Korf. So I had a train then, but unfortunately, a bit later, my career came to an abrupt end. But cojones, every sprinter has cojones. Needs to have them. Needs to be fearless. And there is on a day when you're really good and everybody else is really good as well. But if you win, especially in the Grand Tour, you have the advantage of knowing that you can win. And then the next day, that would happen to me in the Vuelta 99 when I won 4 stages in 6 days. It was just like after I won the 3rd time, I think all the other sprinters, they said, well, it doesn't matter what we do, he's gonna be winning anyway. So I think mentally, I was, speaking for me, I was really reflected. Like in the 90s, nobody had a mental coach or whatsoever. I mean, if you were not going good, they said, well, then train harder or go home and have fun with your wife and then come back. There was the days. But I think now mentally, they're very well looked after, nutrition-wise, material-wise. Every sprinter has a big support. And but basically, nothing has really changed. You need a good pair of good old-fashioned guts. You need the skills to actually be in there. You have to have the quick reflexes. Nothing is different. Nothing is different. except for everything. The only constant is change. And but putting it back together, I would say the sprints are faster, yes, but and probably they go from a little bit longer. But when you don't have lead out men like me, I was going sometimes 450 because I say if I don't go now, I never go because then the gap goes closed and I'm stuck. Or somebody goes too fast, too far out, and you sit on the wheel and say, well, now I got a lead out. He's from a different team and he thought he's going to win, but I will. But we're a great band. I mean, especially the guys now. Man, how can they climb? I mean, I remember there was the three guys always out the ass first was me, Jeroen Blijlevens, and Jan Kirisipu. There was like we were the fair, and we were not fat asses. I mean, if you look at my legs and I had veins running about on my belly, I wasn't fat, but it was like I just couldn't do it. And there was some other guys like Eric. He used to climb really well. There's a few others. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. But I don't know. For me, the most impressive thing is how good the big, tall guys can climb with the other. There's like a bunch of 50, or even at San Remo. I mean, I went right after Imperia. I went right, and after 1 kilometer in the Cipressa, I was bye and never saw the front again. So it has changed, probably in training methods, in durability, in lactate resistance training. So whatsoever. We didn't have all that. We just came back and then had a glass of red wine, went to bed early, slept well, and next day was there.
Hey, I did mention it, I believe, a few times. If I would have magic powers, I would bring back Eddie Merckx, Bernard Hinault, Greg LeMond, all racing in this modern day and age against Pogacar at their best, right? To see who is the best of all times. So now you, as a former sprinter, who would you bring back in time to race against each other? Would you bring back, I don't know, Sagan against Frere or yourself against Marcel Kittel? Who would be the sprinters you want to see over the times to race today in the same conditions?
Well, then the good old sprinters of the set, like Freddy Martins, for example, who won in one Vuelta. He won the GC plus 13 stages, and his team won 17. We had Swan on our team. They have been on his team then, so that's how old we are. But I would like Tom Steels, Chipo, for example. I think Chipo because just to see how the benchmark is with, for example, for a guy like Milan or even anybody of the guys who win stages in the Tour now. I mean, and the greatest achievement, I think, for an old man. I mean, Jensie, you have done tremendously, and you had such a long career. But I mean, Mark Cavendish, there was just like a thing when you see the documentary about him, and you see all the deep, dark holes nobody sees. I bet you, Bobby, have been in some of those. Jensie as well. Me at moments, yes. And that's the unspoken thing. And now, or imagine, like you two guys, imagine now, when we were racing, they would have had 4K cameras, Instagram, Netflix documentations. Man, we'll be as superheroes as these guys are. Like I said, superheroes in the way the great public and the fans see them. Like, where have we been seen? I mean, in the Tour, there was a little bit of television coverage. Now, if you go to YouTube and look up for something of the Vuelta, you can't even recognize the riders on the screen because the quality is so shitty. And now this is sort of an extra bit, and that's why bigger investors come and the image of the sport. And then you have personalities like Pogacar and Peter Sagan. And I think, great, good on the guys. I do really love it for them because it's not even jealousy. It's like it would have been great to have, but it's okay that we didn't. It's like not having a private jet. That's okay as well.
I have to ask this question, and I hope you'll go with me here. Your career ended with a brutal crash which compromised your eyesight. We don't have to go into detail here, but this wasn't a collarbone, this wasn't a hip, this wasn't a broken wrist, that you can bounce back from. If you don't mind, can you please share with us, our viewers and our listeners, your experience of dealing with this sort of thing and ultimately having to stop your career because of it?
Well, the thing is, when you actually crash and then you think, when I was in the survival station in Clermont-Ferrand in the hospital, and when I had a sort of bright moment 2 days after, like bright, I was full with painkillers and morphine. I said, the Vuelta is too hard anyway this year. Why don't I ride the Tour of Poland? Because my team director was there. I wasn't really aware of it in the beginning, but they said, well, you have a problem with your eye, but maybe we can fix it. I mean, I had a broken skull. I had basically every bone in here behind my eyeball actually exploded and was hanging out of the head. And the crash, they fixed it. I can't see because the bones they crushed the nerve, and so this eye, which is black, it's still there. It's my eye. It's a silicone oil in there, but I can't see with it because of the broken nerve. But then you sort of bounce back into life, because what can you do? You get knocked down. Well, stay down. Then you're down. So you get up, and then you see. You probably remember Michael Anderson. He was a Swedish time trial specialist. He was silver medal in the world championships in a time trial. If I was a time trialer, I probably would have still continued a career. But hey, man, as a sprinter, even two eyes were sort of not enough. With one eye, see, I have my hand here, and now I can see the hand now, and when it's here and here, I can't see it. So the risk was just too big. And basically, a good thing was after this great Tour de France, which I had in 2000 with 4 days in the polka dot jersey with a stage win with 2 days in green. Then I got sick and had to pull out. There was actually teams ringing me at home asking if they could buy me out of the contract. And I said, no, I think contracts are made for being respected. And shortly after the crash happened, I was in hospital. And actually, Miguel Rodriguez, who is not the team director of Festina, is Mr. Festina. So if you go to the Porto Olímpico in Barcelona, you see the biggest yacht there is called Festina. It's his boat. He's a very rich man. He loved cycling. He rang me in the hospital and he said, Marcel, first of all, how are you? I hope you're good. Just wanted to let you know you have a 2-year contract with me until 2001. Now it's August 2000. Don't worry. I told Juan Fernandez, the team director, to respect your contract until the end. If you race for my team or if you don't race for my team, you are part of the Festina family. You didn't leave the boat like all the other Reds. Talking about the 98 Festina scandal, where basically most of the riders pissed off after this. And, well, there was a thing where I learned maybe there was sent from heaven. So I went to Mallorca, I trained. I still hadn't got the sight of my right eye. And in February, I was actually sure I will never regain sight of my right eye. And that's when I officially declared my career finished. And then I actually jumped on they rang me with German television when I announced the end of my career. They rang me and said, hey, look, can you maybe do something with us for the Tour de France as a cycling expert and a consultant? I said, oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I was back in business, in the cycling business on the other side. But, I knew so many people knew me. It was like, falling back on your feet after this. And I can still say it's pretty bad to lose an eye, but it's better to lose an eye than a leg, especially in my position, because I still earn my money with cycling, do my cycling things in Mallorca. But on the other hand, it's better to lose 2 legs than 2 eyes. But imagine sitting in the dark. I'd have a wheelchair with no legs. It's cool. Well, it's cool all this way now. But, things change. 1 eye, better than a leg. Better 2 legs than 2 eyes. And you never look at things out of these different perspectives if you're not in the situation. So that's why I share it all the time and have my little oasis of happiness every day when I brush my teeth. Because when I was, after all the operations, the first thing I did in the hospital after 2 weeks or 2.5 when I got out of bed and went into the bathroom and looked at me in the mirror, looked down on me, and I was like a fucking wreck. So I brushed my teeth and said, okay, that's step one. You're here brushing your teeth and you can't do it. You haven't lost your life in this crash, which was probably 50-50 chance. And from on then, I keep this little oasis of happiness every time I brush my teeth. Not for the whole time I brush it, but there's always a blink. It's a, oh yeah, and you can do it. And be happy and thankful and humble for what you have. And, well, don't be stressed about the things you don't have, because I have my health, I have my happiness, I have my family, I have my old friends here, Bobby Jai.
Yes, you do.
Hey, Marcel, I'm gonna see you in about 10 days' time, maybe 2 weeks in Spain, right? We're gonna have dinner together, and I'm still looking forward to that, which actually was part of the deal for Marcel being here, our guest tonight. I be his guest in 2 weeks' time. Marcel,
I cook for you. I cook for you.
I can't wait. It was an absolute honor and pleasure to finally catch up with you. It was so good, Marcel. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk to you and talk about the good old days in cycling. Marcel, thanks a million for tonight for being our guest.
Thank you guys, Bobby, Jensie, legends.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. There'll be loads more content popping up here, including more great interviews with top guests like Marcel.
And please keep dropping your questions for us in the comments. And check our description below to find us on social media and Patreon to support our channel like these great people.